welcome back, everyone. Our first panel this afternoon here in Room A highlights public sector leadership and air quality. This session will be moderated by Vinnie Polignano from HGAC, and we'll hear from Stuart Mueller, Dr. Lauren Hopkins, and Melanie Beeman. So why don't you all come up here, and we'll go ahead and get started, and I will step off the stage.
What do you think? Should I do the podium or with y'all?
Casual.
Yeah, I agree.
Should just have a big couch.
What's up, Vinny? Hello, hello.
Again?
Me again.
Ladies, where do you want to sit? Don't put me in the middle. Really? Boy, sandwich. She's going on. She's a kid.
All right, so I'm gonna turn this one on, and if you don't mind hitting that switch, just pushing it towards the.
Was I not supposed to have water?
No, I haven't. Alrighty, folks. Welcome to the first panel of our afternoon session. My name is Vinnie Polignano. I'm an air quality planner at the Houston-Galveston Area Council, and I'm pleased to be moderating the air quality in the public sector panel. So with me, I have Dr. Lauren Hopkins, Chief Environmental Science Officer at the Houston Health Department, as well as a Professor of Practice at Rice University. Melanie Beeman, Transportation and Mobility Manager for the City of Sugar Land. And Stuart Mueller, the Deputy Director of Harris County Pollution Control Services. Alrighty, folks, I'm going to start off easy on everyone, and let me know if there's a story or a moment or some other indication you had when you were younger and how you ended up in the career you are in today.
Oh, I'm first? No, evidently you are.
What? Oh, me? All right. What was the question again?
How did you end up here?
How did I end up here? The easy answer is by accident. When I graduated college with my science degree and biology degree, I ended up as a lab rat for University of Texas doing cancer research. And when I got out of that, I did that long enough to realize I wasn't going to go any further in my education. So jumped ship, became a drinking water inspector, and from that point, I just got into air and waste and water, learned a little bit about everything, and here I am today. Know a little bit about a lot, but not a lot about a little, something like that. Accident. That's the real answer.
Same here. I actually got a degree in psychology from U of H at Clear Lake, and decided in order to do well with that, you have to get a master's degree, and I didn't want to listen to people's problems all day. But I really do enjoy people, so public service. I've worked for the county before I came to the city in public transit. Worked for the county for 10 and a half years in their public transit department, and found that talking to people every day and being out in the community and understanding their needs, that we really need things for people, especially more sustainable options, people being able to bike, public transit. Not everyone drives, and so having that realization, talking to a lot of people that are older or with disabilities, I just have a real servant heart, and I enjoy helping people get around, so trying to think of ways to do that that's sustainable and good for the environment.
I want you to know that he didn't tell us he was going to ask us this question. That's why I'm dumbfounded a little bit. But I'm just passionate about the environment, and so I studied it, and then somewhere in my career I started working doing human health risk assessment as part of the environmental work, and became more and more interested in the association and the relationship between health and the environment. And so, that's the career path. But I have so many of my colleagues here that are similar, that I've actually learned from. So anyway, I think it's for me, it wasn't an accident. It was very intentional, and it just keeps growing.
Awesome. Thank you, folks. And Dr. Hopkins is right. I did not give them all the questions in advance. I gave them the general outline and tried to come up with some more interesting ones. So based on those answers and your current work, what's kept you in the public sector when presumably with y'all's skill set you could go into a different line of work? Why stay in the public sector?
I want to keep up the good fight. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of opportunities out there, but there's also a lot of mistrust with government, especially big government, and working for a local government. I kind of want to prove the point that we're not all lining our pockets with gold and trying to hurt everybody. We want to do good things for the community, and so just wanting to keep up that, I don't want to keep saying fight, but trying to keep that momentum going.
Should we try this? Does it come out? No. Do you want me to go?
I'll go if you want me to.
You go.
All right. What keeps me here? I like to think I'm good at what I do. Over the years, the 30-some-odd years I've been doing this, I've learned a lot across the board. I did jump ship a couple times to the other side of the fence, and I ended up going right back to the public servant profession. I like it. I think I'm good at it, and I would like to finish my career doing what I'm doing.
I think I would add that, so for me, I worked in all kinds of different aspects. I worked in the federal level. I've worked at the state. I worked here at TCEQ for a time being a risk assessment reviewer many years ago. And I've worked for DOE, and I have been in academia, and I've been a consultant. And when I started at the city of Houston, it was under Bill White, so that was, I guess, I'm on my fourth mayor now. And there's just something really powerful about working at the local level. You know the people, the policies that you implement, you can see whether they're successful or not. And so it's definitely my very, very favorite thing. And the other thing about it, the reason why I love it is because we have the power to change, and even those little policies that we make are really important to people. And you know, if you do public health, which I'm assuming a lot of people in this room do, it's just something that you get the bite and you can't leave because it's just so amazing to, be part of that change. And the people that I work with, like Wynn here in the audience, I mean, those people during COVID, during all these things, we're out there working, and there's just some kind of very powerful connection that you have with your coworkers when you're on the local level.
Yeah, great. Thank you, folks. So that was a bit of a selfish question. I am a young professional. This is my first job out of college, and I was pretty committed in college to entering the public sector, so wanted to know what's going to keep me here. It is not the money. All right, so Melanie, you made the point just saying that not everyone drives. That fishtails right off of a question I had for you. So your title, Transportation and Mobility Manager. Can you orient us to how you and how the City of Sugar Land view mobility?
Sure. So I am a division of one person. I'm in the engineering department, so I do have engineers and traffic people and public works people that I work with, but it's just me that does most of the work that I do. We just finished, I think, in 2023. Each year just keeps ticking by too fast. I can't keep up with it. We adopted our mobility master plan, which is the first one that we had done. Before that, we had a bicycle pedestrian master plan and a major thoroughfare plan. And so we kind of combined these all into this umbrella plan that gave us more permission to do things like complete streets, making sure that everybody, all ages and abilities, can get around the city and ultimately the region. So we now have that plan backed by our city council and our mayor. So leadership stands behind the things that are in that plan, and we have just an immense list of projects that we want to do. And so funding's always an issue. Thank God for HGAC. A lot of the money comes through them and through TxDOT and through FTA. So we have this outline of what we want to do. Now we have funding that we can go after to do these projects for the public to make things better for people's lives and not just people who drive.
Great. Then my next question is for Dr. Hopkins. So what is a professor of practice? So I was lucky enough in my graduate program to study under a number of professors of practice, but for folks who may not know, what's unique about that role?
It means something different at different universities, and that's just a title that I have right now. I've had other titles at Rice. We had different provosts, and they changed the title, honestly. But for generally speaking, at Rice, it's more of a teaching position. But it can be. Lately it is, but it's. In my role, it's more of really very applied work with statistics and taking it outside of what we call the hedges at Rice to implement. And my whole position is about doing research to inform policy and connecting. So, like, you might see something in the government which needs an answer, and taxpayers do not pay for the Houston Health Department to do research, and so having one foot inside of the public sector and one foot in academia makes a sort of more of a bridging process capable. And so if I see something that needs to be resolved or someone brings it to my attention, my job is to go and find the researchers to engage with the government, the local government, with the city to do the work. And so, like, Dr. Szymanski's here, Dr. Hamilton, these are people, the network of people that we work with that want to do good for the city and have the research be really applied. So my role is sort of to direct that.
Great. Next for Stuart. So your agency is a mouthful, the Harris County Pollution Control Services. What do you do? We heard a little bit about community air monitoring in one of the previous presentations, but from the whole of the agency down into those monitoring, what do y'all get up to?
All right. Harris County Pollution Control, we'll just shorten it up, PCS, is we are the local environmental regulatory agency. We do a lot of the monitoring or compliance things that the state does, the TCEQ, Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. We've got a field group that follows up on citizens' concerns, complaints, that kind of stuff, all environmental related. Air, waste, and water are the three medias that we're looking at. So there are boots on the ground following up on citizens' complaints. We have a water section that's they're not looking up, they're looking down. They're sampling outfalls, streams, the Houston Ship Channel. Just they're pulling samples. They also have a role in our Harris County's obligation to meet the MS4, what is it, municipal. It's the our stormwater permit, basically. So we're pulling representative samples, we're doing inspections, dry weather and wet weather screenings, that kind of stuff, to ensure compliance with stormwater stuff. We've got a lab, our own lab, that runs analysis on the samples that we collect out in the field for most everything. We do have to outsource some of the samples, but for the most part, we're doing it ourselves. We're getting more accreditations every day. One day we'll be, I'm not going to say we're ever going to be 100% self-sufficient, but we're going to be close. We're We have our air monitoring group that Dr. Grayson was talking about this morning. That group are the ones that maintain our campsites and our ozone sites. And just to elaborate a little bit on what was talked about this morning, we do have a program called CAMP, and it consists of 23 sensors or monitors. I call them monitors. EPA calls them sensors because they're not regulatory. But they're all over the county. They're mostly located at county facilities. We have a few at some city parks and what have you, but for the most part, they're on county property. We've got 12. Oh, that program began in, we're just going to say late 2020. And we expect and want to grow, but we've got, the issues are always funding and staff, right? We've pretty much maxed out our staff right now. I always like to say the air group fixes broken stuff. When you have 30 some odd monitors out there, something's going to go wrong just about every day that has to be addressed. Let's see. We have that's on the technical branch of the tree. That's the one that I kind of watch over. We do have a compliance section that oversees the compliance with any of the violation notices we send out. We also have our communications group that does our public outreach. And all together we work, and the goal is help protect the citizens of Harris County from air waste and water pollution.
Awesome, great pitch. Alrighty, Melanie. So I think people generally can understand that transportation impacts air quality, but I don't think they're as aware of some of the solutions. So there's electrifying vehicles, there's cleaner burning alternative fuels, etc. But I have a simple one I want to ask you about. What are intelligent transportation systems? ITS.
This is the one topic I know least about. Because our traffic department mostly handles that. We applied for a grant and actually didn't get that grant, so then we went to HGAC and we got money to fund our ITS railroad monitoring communication notification system. So this one I know a lot about because I had to write the grant proposal. So it's basically through 99, along 90A, we have the UPRR railroad that used to be a single track. Now it's a double track. They can put 5 tracks if they want to. Freight movement's very important. We love the railroad, but it does divide our community, and that prevents a lot of, especially emergency vehicles that are trying to cross these tracks. Traffic can get backed up because the lights all are preempted, and that can cause some delays. So we thought, okay, we can't do anything about the railroad. What can we do? We can't build overpasses on everything because that would take out neighborhoods. What can we do instead? So we looked to intelligent transportation systems to actually do real-time monitoring of those intersections and to give people some forewarning, whether it's, we haven't figured out exactly how it's all going to be communicated yet, but dynamic messaging signs, some sort of communication where we can let people know to avoid the area or to take a different route, and plenty of time so they don't get stuck in the traffic. So that helps 2 things. It helps emergency vehicles, and it also helps traffic congestion and, of course, air quality, because if you got idling vehicles sitting there, it's not helping anybody. Then we also have some ways to move traffic through. We also have Highway 6 that goes through our city and 59 corridor. And so Highway 6, even though it's a TxDOT roadway, we handle all the traffic signals along there. So we've done a lot to help with signal timing, to keep traffic flowing. So those kind of things we're trying to help as best we can to control the things that we can control, to help keep people moving and prevent pollution and traffic at the same time.
Yeah, all those good things. Yeah, so that was interesting to me when I first came across that ITS. It makes sense. It takes congestion away, which is a good in and of itself, but then cutting those idling emissions is a great added benefit. All right, Dr. Hopkins, what do you think about today's students? Are they okay? How are they doing? Are they our future?
I think they're very educated and very aware and very environmental, and I think that has to do with all of us working hard to get the issues out and informed. So, no, yeah, I think we're in really good hands. It's time to have the students make some progress and pick up the wand, to pass it off. But I wanted to just make sure that I call out Winley from the Houston Health Department, because just so people don't, so people understand how we have a counterpart to the county. The county air pollution, everything that you were discussing, we actually also have inside of the city of Houston. And then that we work together with that. I just wanted to make sure that people understood that there was, the Bureau of Pollution Control and Prevention at the city. I don't actually think there's much difference in the actual activities that are done. If there's a big emergency, the county and the city work together. And most of the time, if there's some kind of trade-off to happen, you guys communicate to each other so that we are synergistic, in our activities. Sorry, Vinny. I just felt like I should add that.
No, great. Answer the question you want to hear, not the question you get.
Yeah.
Kidding. This one is for all of you, so whoever wants to answer first. I'm curious, to varying degrees, y'all are all engaged in some technical work, and how do you go about, or some best practices to describing those complex things to a general audience?
Well, one thing that we do is we try to work with the community to help and to get their feedback and how they can understand things like a dashboard or a report, and then be able to make changes to that, so that we can make it more friendly in the understanding of it, because it can be very, very complicated depending on the situation. And we spend a time, and that's a very good question, Vinny, because of the fact that, if you're talking as a scientist or an engineer, and you need to be able to communicate something to all aspects of the city of Houston. And some people want real detail. They're professionals that work here, or, they have the education to understand the speech or the vernacular. But then you have people that you need to reach that don't have the same vocabulary or grasp of some terms. And so in the health department, at least, we try to hit all those audiences with different aspects, because the people in this audience want to know, what the details are potentially. Like, for example, we have a new program that we started this summer called the Heat Health Alert System. And what it is, there was a bunch of statistics that were done behind emergency department visits for heat, not just for heat-related illness, but for other conditions that could be exacerbated or triggered by heat, like we would for pollution. So what we did was look at what are emergency department visits on high extreme heat days historically, and it would be like for miscarriage or for cardiac arrest or for stroke. There is an increase in risk for things that people aren't aware of for heat. Now, there are people that want to know those details. They want to know it, or we're trying to reach them so that they actually are listening to a warning that we may put out. In that case, we would say, if you're interested, you'd be like, okay, well, why? I'm pregnant. Why am I more vulnerable? So we would say, here's the physiological reason why you're more vulnerable to heat. A lot of times we might send out a warning, and we'll ask someone, it's like, this is just from experience that we follow up with people, like, what were you doing just prior to your heat-related illness or your heat stroke? And they'll say, well, I was working in the yard. Did you know there was a heat warning? Yeah, but it's for older people, and I don't consider myself old. Well, I don't consider myself old, but y'all probably think I'm old. So, it's like how to reach the different audiences that we really try to work on, because, we need to be inclusive to everyone that lives here. I know I'm going on a little bit, but I do think it's so important, because that communication piece, as researchers and scientists, and I think most of us here, we have a lot that we can do, but if we can't reach our audience, it's not going to be very effective. So that's what I would say.
You hit the nail on the head. It's all about communication. I'm in the regulatory world. We're ensuring compliance out there, and when you walk in our doors in the morning, we live in a world of acronyms. We know what we're saying. Everybody understands inside the walls. But when it comes to permitting actions, that's one section that I left out. We have a permitting section that kind of keeps their finger on the pulse of all the permitting stuff going on in Harris County. One of their jobs is to pay attention to certain types of industry, and then they will let our communications group know, and then our communications group will go out and let the citizens that are in close proximity to whatever facility is know what's going on, and put it in layman's terms, what to do, how to get involved, that kind of stuff. It's key. It's important. And same thing with pretty much all our sections. Whenever we come across something that seems like there's confusion somewhere, we get in touch with our comms group and see if we can't reach out and clear the air, so to speak. Exactly. Da-da-da-da. So anyway, that's I really do. That's the key.
Yeah, so we all work with data. It's a matter of putting it all together in a way that people can understand the importance of it. We're piloting the first of its kind microtransit service in the Gulf Coast, Texas Gulf Coast region. We're using electric vehicles. We have a fleet of about 9 vehicles, and so we're constantly collecting data, where people are going to, where are they coming from. Maybe at some point we can figure out where we could put some fixed stops in Sugar Land, and we could, have a circulator bus or something. So constantly looking at that data, where people want to go, where we can expand, because people are outside the service zone. Hey, I'm outside the service zone. Can you include me? And we look at it. Yeah, okay, there's enough demand. We can try that. Roundabouts is another big one. People are really get upset about roundabouts. We have one in the city, actually 2. We're about to put in another one. And helping people understand, how do you drive through a roundabout? And you got the statistics that they're safer, they minimize major collisions, you can't be T-boned unless somebody's defying physics. They're pretty, they don't use electricity, there's no stoplights, they're sustainable. Just all of these things that we can educate the public on. How to use a shared use path. That's something we got requests on now. How do people bike and walk and roll all in the same space? Being polite, to your neighbors. There's all kinds of things that we have data on that we just need to get out to the community so they're more educated. Trails. We tried to put a trail, us and the county, we're working on a project together through this neighborhood, and they're like, no, we don't want a trail. The reasons that it's not about your feelings, it's about data and what it actually shows, what the facts are about trails and their safety and how they improve the environment, and people can get out and bike and walk and they can get places. So communicating, social media is another one. Anytime people are throwing stuff out there, our communications team's usually on it. They'll ask the proper person, what's the actual facts on this, and we'll have a rebuttal. Just to keep that from because it can really get out of hand on social media. I don't know how much you probably get some, but yeah, just communicating and expressing that data in a way people can understand.
Yeah, and this is no shade on the Texas crowd. I recently relocated a couple of years ago from Pennsylvania. I can tell y'all aren't that familiar with roundabouts. They are a major feature of the transportation system in the Northeast. So I definitely exercise a little more caution as I'm entering them around these parts. But so going off that, communicating to general audiences, let's take it a step further and succinctly, how would you explain your job to a 5-year-old? I think this one's really fun, but I can tell this was one of the ones I maybe should have prepared them for. But as the effective communicators they are and public servants, I'm sure they'll be.
Yeah, I actually was at an event that was totally geared toward children. It was at the Houston Children's Museum that they have a satellite out in Sugar Land. And so all the different city departments were out there, and we all had our little displays and things of what we do. And mine was a poster of how do you get to school. And so students could put whether they drove or they rode their bike or they walked, and actually put I fly, and some kids picked that. So them seeing kind of what you do and how mommy and daddy get to get around, how do you get to the grocery store, how do you move about your community, so that they can kind of understand, because they see it every day. So that's not too difficult to explain to a kid, for me anyway. Maybe you guys. Oh, you go. Sorry.
All right. Oh, okay. Interesting question. You know, I get asked all the time by some of my friends, my long-term friends. They always ask me, "What do you do again?" So telling them what I do, I sometimes have to explain it to them like they're 5 years old. But I summarize it this way: I protect you, the citizens of Harris County. We're doing everything we can do to minimize emissions, minimize pollution or eliminate pollution to our streams and rivers, lakes, what have you, and make sure the environmental regs are followed. And I don't know how much simpler you can make it, but that's how I explain it. And once you start getting into the weeds, it gets a lot more out of the 5-year-old explanation area. Right, keep it simple. Keep it Stewart simple, right? So that's how I do it.
I am at such a loss here. But my colleague, Win Lee, is in the audience, and he has 2 5-year-old twins. So I bet he's had to do this before. I'm just going to adopt your definition.
All right, I'll lobby a soft one then, Dr. Hopkins. So could you tell me about the Rice Urban Data Platform? And then additionally, just broadly, we know we collect all this data, and then like where does it live? What happens to it? Does it just live on a shelf?
So the Urban Data Platform is something that is really important because it's a place where data can sit after you've collected it. So if you collect data, I collect data, any grant can collect data. The Kinder Institute collects data, it can all go there, and then you can access that data and bring the different data sets together. And this is really important because what we really work on is integrating data so that we can have a better understanding. And so, like I said, I have colleagues in the audience, so I'm looking to them to say, you agree with what I'm saying. But anyway, so if we're looking at, is it heat that's causing this miscarriage, or is it the pollution that's causing this miscarriage, or is, and what are the other factors that are involved, the socioeconomic status, other stressors, all that are different data sources. And so something like the Urban Data Platform is a place where data can sit and a researcher can say, oh, I need to be looking at these different things and bring them together to actually make an informed decision, because we can't make those kinds of relationships, those associations, without really pulling together everything that's local.
Awesome. We're coming up, and this will probably be our last question. but can we name any policies or projects, something that's been effective in reducing emissions and improving air quality?
Go ahead.
We're adding more trails that are not just for parks. We're actually doing some major spines that go through the city and cross barriers such as the freeways. We have lots of bayous so that people can bike and walk and actually get places instead of just in their neighborhood. Because diverting cars into some other mode, whether it's public transit, whether it's walking or biking, whatever it may be, will help traffic congestion and hand in hand with improve air quality.
I like to think that pretty much all of our compliance efforts are beneficial. You asked about a project or something. I will say this: a few years back, we became the first department in Harris County to have clean fleet. I'm sorry. We still drive those things today, and I didn't mention this earlier, but we have one mobile monitoring van now. We're getting a second that will be totally electric. We hope to have it. We'd like to have it by the end of the year. Not sure it's being built right now, but we're going to continue our pursuit to do that.
All of this, plus I would say, I think our idling policy, I think we have an initiative to plant 10 million trees and do a regional conservation plan that, all of us work with one of our partners, Houston Wilderness, where we're buying up lands and putting native trees and native grasses there inside of the city. That will help with pollution and with heat and also, emotional stress. So that's one of the big ones.
Awesome. Well, thank you, folks. If we can get a round of applause for our panelists. All righty. Thank you, folks.